You're watching RTV News with me, Jane Mutoni. On Tuesday, the government of Rwanda and the Federation Republic of Germany signed a climate and development partnership to scale up climate change mitigation. The Rwandan government has announced that not a single Rwandan has been injured or lost their life in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Everyone, welcome to the news in details. Now, on Tuesday, the government of Rwanda and the Federation Republic of Germany signed a climate and development partnership to scale up climate change mitigation, adaptation, as well as sustainable urban development based on Rwanda's national determined contribution implementation framework. Now, this partnership is aimed at working together to implement Rwanda's climate action plan with a whopping amount of 56 million euros. CD Patel reports.
At Urujviro village, President Paul Kagame received the delegation led by Germany's Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Honorable Svenja Schulte, who is on a 4-day visit in Rwanda. Later, during a high-level ceremony, Ms. Svenja Schulte, German Federal Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development, Dr. Uziel Dajijimana, Rwanda's Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, and Mr. Patrick Carrera, the Permanent Secretary in Rwanda's Ministry of Environment, officially launched the Rwandan-German Climate and Development Partnership. This partnership between Germany and Rwanda gives particular attention to nationally determined contributions, implementation projects through Rwanda Green Fund, FONERWA, and to sustainable urban development measures.
Why Rwanda is a climate pioneer? The consequences of climate change have long been present in Rwanda, and they are particularly affected the poor, the rural population. And temperatures are rising, landslides and floods are increasing. Your country has had close partnership ties for the last 40 years. The German government and also for my ministry, the development ministry, it is clear that moving towards ecologically sustainable, climate neutral ways of living and doing business is the most important global task of the 21st century. However, climate action and environmental protection can only be successful if they also address social issues. And I would like to work more closely with particularly ambitious partner countries and enter into special climate and development partnerships with them. And Rwanda is an ambitious partner like that. And Rwanda knows very well what it must do in order to achieve its climate goals. Your current very ambitious implementation plan for your national determined contributions is really a proof of that. And Rwanda was the first least developed country to present an ambitious NDC, and your country is active in many multilateral climate initiatives, such as the NDC partnership or the new task force on access to climate finance.
Climate change is of the greatest political importance for the government of Rwanda as of now due to drastic climate changes which affects most of the rural and poor population. The area of focus will be to enhance climate change, climate with the global change, to adapt what climate change is, climate change mitigation, cooperation for sustainable development in this partnership. Areas of development will be educational and vocational training, decentralization, finance development, public finance management, and various other areas.
Welcome all of you to this signing ceremony of the following agreements. As you witnessed, one is a joint declaration of intent regarding the Rwandan-German Climate and Development Partnerships. Climate and Development Partnerships we've just signed is fully aligned with our national strategy for transformation, covering the period from 2017 to 2024 under the economic transformation pillar, with the main objective to accelerate private sector-led economic growth and increase productivity, focusing on promotion of sustainable management of the environment and natural resources to transition Rwanda toward a green economy.
Agreements for the urban development project Green City Kigali, 30 million euros, and for the implementation of the Rwandan NDCs through the NDC facility at the Rwanda Green Fund, 26 million euros, were signed with the German Development Bank, KfW.
Financial agreements signed, which will support our Green Fund to finance green projects in the country. The second one will support the implementation of the Kigali Green City, which is already under implementation. So this is a great support that will help us to advance, make progress on this project.
The new climate and development partnership builds on the existing portfolio, which adds up to a total of 163 million euros. Germany intends to make further funds available in 2022 and also thereafter. Rwanda has committed to reducing its greenhouse gas emissions by 38% by 2030 compared to a business-as-usual scenario under the condition of international support and funding complementing domestic resources. Siddhi Patel, RTV News.
Thank you, Sidi, for that report. Now, the Ministry of Health has noted that in 2 years to come, they will start the manufacturing of vaccines in Rwanda, which include vaccines for malaria, tuberculosis, and COVID-19. Now, these vaccines will be manufactured with the help of BioNTech, a German biotechnology company. Olive Nete reports.
In joint discussions with investors from BioNTech, a German biotechnology company, researchers as well as students, it was pointed out that the process of manufacturing vaccines in Rwanda is finally about to be established. The Rwandan Minister of State in charge of ICT and TVET, Claudette Irere, noted that there is need to improve skills of people who will work in the factory that will manufacture these vaccines.
Reskilling the existing workforce to ensure they can respond to the new demands. The second one is upskilling the existing workforce to ensure that they fit right into the new demands. The third approach to this is exposing the current workforce to the actual vaccine manufacturing facility processes. And I believe having BioNTech in the country is already a right step into this, because vaccine inequity, as we have heard, has affected us all, and we have never been able to develop the required skill sets. And with BioNTech approach, we are, as Africa, being given an opportunity to develop these highly needed skills. And that is why there is need of establishing regional training hub to complement all these efforts.
The Rwandan Minister of Health, Dr. Daniel Ngamije, notes that the manufacturing of vaccines will start in 24 months to come.
Rwanda is engaged in setting up a manufacturing hub for vaccine, starting with vaccines against COVID-19 to address critical challenges mentioned above. The KENAP Foundation, in collaboration with BioNTech, are committed to partner with Rwanda for mRNA vaccine technology and skills transfer to improve medium-term vaccine supply in Africa. A sustainable production of BioNTech mRNA vaccines is expected to be established in Rwanda in a reasonable period from now. In fact, we should expect it in probably 24 months maximum. Parallel to this, several other programs were initiated to strengthen Rwanda Food and Drug Authority regulatory capacity to efficiently handle licensing, control of vaccines, and manufacturing facilities.
The Federal Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany, Svenja Schulz, noted that the inequity in distribution of vaccines is still a big issue. That is why Africa has to start manufacturing needed vaccines.
It is important that Africa is able to produce their own vaccines. Just 1% of what is needed is produced here in Africa. It's really a moral disaster that we are not able to deliver the vaccines that are needed, because no one is safe in the world until everybody is safe. So the vaccines need to go to everybody. And so producing vaccines here in Africa is a very important step.
Recently, in the discussions held in Germany, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, stressed that the cooperation of the countries in the production of vaccines will reduce the number of vaccines that Africa imports from other continents.
I think the importance of today cannot be overemphasized in the context of a number of things. One, how in different ways a partnership like this, bringing together pharmaceutical industry, in this case, BioNTech, countries, our own countries on our continent of Africa, investments that are supporting us to realize the capacity to be able to manufacture vaccines end to end, which is going to address the vaccine inequity and other pharmaceutical products that all the time have to be imported into our continent and never manufactured there.
The World Health Organization points out that there is still a big gap in the manufacturing of vaccines in Africa, where during this period of COVID-19 pandemic, 80% of the vaccine manufactured were given to 20 rich and developed countries, while Africa only received 0.6% of the manufactured vaccines. According to the World Health Organization, 99% of the vaccines needed by Africa are produced from other continents. Olive Nete, RTV News.
The Rwandan government has announced that not a single Rwandan has been injured or lost their life in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, and that 51 have so far managed to leave the country, crossing into Poland from Hungary.
It's now been close to a week since Russia invaded Ukraine, and the conflict has been raging since, with more than 500,000 people having fled the country, both locals and foreigners that had been living there, including Rwandans.
abo dufitiye situation uyu munsi ni abanyarwanda 86 hanyuma bamaze kwambuka ni 51.
Those who we are aware of their situation are 86 Rwandans. 51 have now crossed to safety, 1 to Hungary and 50 to Poland. Another 9 are at the border waiting to cross, and if all goes well, they may cross tonight. We would then have 60 across the border. We know that 11 are in transit within Ukraine, heading for the border, and there are 15 stuck in the war zone and unable to leave. The biggest problem they are facing is money. Some of them did not have enough when the war broke out. Some had it on bank accounts and ATMs ran out of funds. And then there is also a problem of electricity. Communication is difficult because it is hard to recharge cell phones, and so we must wait for them to come back online before being able to talk to them again. So that is the current situation. 15 are in Ukraine and stuck, unable to leave. 11 are in transit within the country, and 9 are at the border waiting to cross. 51 have so far made it across.
15 bakirimo rwose badashobora kugeraho barya, 11 bari mu nzira, 9 bategereje ku mupaka na 51 bamaze kwambuka.
Among those who have made it into Poland is Fred Mupenzi, who was the head of the Rwandan Students Association in Ukraine. With war, things are never easy, and in areas where the conflict is raging, leaving is extremely difficult. It was easy for me because I was living in the city of Lviv, so I was able to cross quickly. I then communicated with our embassy here in Poland so that it would help us and we could get the others out as well. They should not be discouraged because the embassy has sent 2 people and they are waiting for them at the border. The government of Rwanda's priority is to get all Rwandans to safety as quickly as possible, taking into account the situation on the ground in Ukraine and the countries they have fled to.
Kuguma mu mazu yabo haba gahenge bagasohoka haba hari ibitwaro birashwe wabonye ko bafite uburyo bwo kuvuza inzogera abantu bagahunga nuguhungira he.
They must remain indoors and only go out when things have eased up. They should pay attention to siren warnings of incoming missiles or shelling and seek shelter underground, in basements, bunkers and subways. Fortunately, the information we have indicates that no Rwandan has been injured or killed in the fighting. As for those that have made it into Poland, that country has decided that all foreigners that have made it onto its soil in that way must not stay for longer than 2 weeks. So all of our people must come home. Some may decide to stay with relatives and friends in other European countries, and that is also fine. But as for the rest, we must coordinate with their families here, their parents, and find a way to get them home to Rwanda. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is open to listening to any issues our people are facing, and we then work on finding a solution. We cannot announce today that we are sending Rwandair to get them or any other hasty decisions. But what I do know, however, is that regardless of where a Rwandan is, as long as they have made known the challenges they are facing, a solution will be found. It must be found. On Monday, the African Union released a statement denouncing the maltreatment of Africans trying to flee the conflict in Ukraine, with reports having emerged of them being denied services that are being provided for Ukrainians and other foreigners trying to cross the border. African countries have therefore been coordinating with each other to get their people safely out. African embassies are coordinating among themselves, the Nigerians, Guineans and others. So when a Rwandan winds up at, say, the South African embassy, we are immediately informed. When we see their people, we also tell them, so information is being exchanged and so are people when they end up in the wrong place. Figures indicate that 20% of all foreign students who had been studying in Ukraine are African.
People living with HIV have noted that antiviral drugs have helped their lives to return to normal, not only helping their bodies to fight and suppress the virus enough to allow them to lead normal lives, but also eliminate the sort of discrimination they used to face. Take a look.
Sylvie Muneza found out that she had contracted HIV back in 1998, and before getting access to antiretroviral drugs, she got so sick she ended up in a ward reserved for HIV/AIDS patients at Seha Shika, weighing as little as 10 kilograms as an adult and on the brink of death. As if the pain of knowing that her life was slipping away was not enough, she and others like Cyprien Uzaba Chiriho were discriminated against. People were dying all around me. We were discriminated against, and it was as if my body was falling apart while I was still alive. My home was referred to as the one with the man who has AIDS, and people would refuse to visit us. It got to the point that people were using the illness to insult you. Taking antiretroviral drugs changed all that. After I started taking Bactrim, I was careful to drink plenty of water and respect the dose and avoid alcohol to build up my body's ability to fight the virus. Within a short time, I was much better. But without discipline, the drugs will do little for you. You must take the doses on time and eat a healthy diet. Local health workers agree that the benefits of the drugs provided have helped people to take them religiously and improve their lives, and the government of Rwanda is committed to ensuring that they continue to be available free of charge, though sadly not all patients are taking them. Not a single HIV patient can claim not to have access to antiretroviral drugs, but unfortunately some people are afraid of them, afraid they may be discriminated against if others find out, or at times they themselves don't seem to have come to terms with the fact that they have the virus, hiding it even from their loved ones. That is the reason not all people with HIV in Rwanda take the drugs. The HIV prevalence in Rwanda has remained at 3%, with 92% of those infected on antiretroviral drugs, and fatalities because of the virus have continued to reduce significantly, with as many as 17,121 dying in 2003 and 1,548 last year. Every year, there are 5,400 new infections in the country.
Training is taking place in Kigali for teachers and students engaged in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects. Now, the training has been organized by the Ministry of Education in collaboration with the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization.
The training is taking place at Fawe Girls' School and is bringing together science and TVET students from other schools as well.
Before, when I was here, I was just thinking that a robot, I had an idea that a robot is anything that contains an image like a human, but I came to know that anything that can be programmed can be considered to as a robot, which can be helpful to the environment and society, and can bring an economic effect, positive effect to the Africa at large.
This STEM bootcamp, it's about science, technology, mathematics and engineering. And it was started on yesterday, on Monday, and the thing is that what are we getting in it? It helped me to get rid of my fear in STEM, and it helped me in each field of sciences that I will go in every country, that I will not get fear of anything.
Not just students are benefiting from the training.
At Fauga School, Gisozi, it's a school that is located in Kigali. So we are here for training, and of course it is under STEM Bootcamp. It was organized by a SENELU, or National Commission for UNESCO, and in partnership with Creativity Lab and some schools. We've selected some schools in Kigali Of course, we've chosen the schools in Kigali because we couldn't actually go beyond of Kigali due to how we wanted this piloting program has to go. And again, I may say that these trainings, they are very important, we as teachers, because they will help us to improve the way we are teaching. And something very special under this is that we are with the students. Sometimes there is a time you teach in a class and the students, they think that maybe the things you are teaching, you want them to understand. But now this time, they are putting their hands on the activities. They are seeing how the robotics are working. They are seeing how some experiments are being carried out. We have different people from different countries in the world. They are helping them to understand better some experiments we have in the sciences. And we started this training yesterday on 28th February, and we are still doing it. And we are sure that it will be very, very fruitful to us, we as teachers, and on the side also of the students, they will understand better and better.
Organizers believe that this sort of interaction between students and teachers is key to yielding results on many fronts.
Today we're opening a STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics boot camp organized by UNESCO, the Ministry of Education and its agencies, as well as with some private partners. And what we're telling the students here is to focus on their studies, but also try to link what they study in classrooms to different challenges or different opportunities that they see in our communities. For instance, you have seen that students here were practicing in building robots, building circuits, and doing computer programming. So these are the skills that they need now, but these are also the skills of the future. So we want our students to be able to navigate the fourth industrial revolution, as they say. So we need to make sure that our students are fully prepared. And this is why we want to maximize opportunities like this, be it boot camps or us strengthening their STEM curriculum in school, and other opportunities that we can find to make sure that our students get a chance to understand that STEM is not magic, it's not something that's out of their capacities, but to make sure that they understand that they too can play a role in this developing world.
The training was organized by the Rwandan Ministry of Education in collaboration with UNESCO and started on Monday, lasting for 4 days.
Agricultural experts gathered in Kigali have noted that there is a need for the consolidation of research findings so that the African continent can effectively deal with the effects of climate change, increase agricultural productivity.
Africa accounts for just 4% of all global emissions, but the continent has been suffering from the effects of climate change nevertheless, which is why trying to pretend the problem doesn't exist is not an option.
Well, we are discussing many issues. Just yesterday, a very important report was released. It's called the Working Group 2 from the IPCC. These are the scientists, 200 scientists from around the world have released this report that says things are not good. They are not good because we have a climate that is warming, impacts and vulnerability that is getting worse. And for those of us in Africa and many countries like ours that are climate vulnerable, things are going to be very difficult. Even if we actually do something about it today, what that means for us as Africans is that we have to invest in protection, and for those of us advocating for financing to ensure that we put in place the necessary adaptation solutions. Tujikinge, yani we protect ourselves from what is coming, and that's the most important agenda right now. Because if we don't do that urgently today, then we are going to face in 10 years a very difficult time. Life as we know it will be completely different.
Even as the world continues to struggle to implement any agreements made on reducing carbon emissions and assisting developing nations to deal with the effects of climate change, African agricultural experts are looking to tackle the problem head-on.
Because we have worked together with their senior scientists to generate a lot of technologies. We've generated over 300 technologies, innovations, and management practices. We have reached almost 12 million. In Rwanda, we have come up with those technologies of sustainable land management. We've come up with fast-growing crop varieties that can lead that can enable the farmers to generate a lot of revenue even within the shortest duration of the rainfall. So we have good technologies. We have made sure that we worked with the RAB and Rwanda to come up with policies that can enable the farmers to access the markets, that can enable the farmers to have a strong negotiating power within this region.
Agricultural officials here in Rwanda have also expressed support for the initiative, and those gathered in Kigali have been discussing such initiatives ahead of the conference in Egypt towards the end of this year on the implementation of the Paris Agreement.
And there you have it. On behalf of the entire news production team, thank you so much for your company. I'm Jane Mutoni. Good night.